Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning for some. My guest today is Troy Izmir, and he said to me, "Good morning, Zenzi." I said, "Good afternoon, Troy," because I'm in London, as you all know, and it's gone 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and Troy is in Colorado. And he lives nearby the mountains. And he was telling me just before we started, and I was getting jealous because he said in the morning he gets up, he goes for a walk, he's looking at the mountains, and sometimes very high up there's the snow. And I'm thinking, lovely, clean air, unlike London.
Mm.
It's clear in his head, it's feeling so nice. And I'm thinking, oh, how lovely. Anyway, without much ado, I'm being a little bit jealous. My guest, Troy. Welcome, Troy.
Thank you, Zenzi. It's an honor to be here, and I'm excited to share a little bit of my story and just encourage one another through this podcast. So thanks for having me.
Right. So you're in the morning, I'm in the afternoon. You've been for your walk, you lucky man. So, as you know, with spiritual infinity, it's about how people connect to their spirituality. How did it start? How did it affect your life? Because it's happening to a lot of us all over the world. And we really need to share this so that we can encourage and help others. So, without much ado, Troy, what happened to you for you to connect to your spirituality?
Mm. Yeah, well, I'll share a little bit of my story then. Let's just jump right in.
Yeah.
So, just a little bit of a background. So, my dad was a Lutheran pastor. So, I'm a PK, pastor's kid. So, I was raised up in the church, a very conservative evangelical Christian church. I was made to go to church. I was outdoor
like
sports. Just
like
let
kids
me,
are.
yeah, just let me play. Just, I don't want to sit still for an hour listening to things that don't make any sense. So church actually made me want to rebel. Just, I want to go throw the football around. I wasn't getting in any trouble. I was an athlete, and
Yeah.
that's how I connected spiritually. I just didn't know it at the time. So it didn't really make sense once I graduated high school, was on my own. I didn't want anything to do with spirituality. I went to church once in a while just to make my mom happy when she would ask, "Did you go to church?" Because that's all she wanted to know. It
And,
wasn't,
and, and you need to say, yes, Mum, I went to church.
and I did, once every 3 to 6 months just to appease mom and make her happy. And, which was interesting. It was never, how did you experience God? It was, did you go to church? Right. And that's kind of how I was brought up and completely got away from it. And then what brought me back, or at least started me on this journey, was suffering, right? Like it happens to pretty
To,
much everybody.
yes.
So I went through a really heartbreaking divorce. So after 18 years of marriage, the last five I would consider pretty, I would say living hell might be a little exaggeration, but in the midst of it, it was really, really challenging. I had
It
two
was
kids at
hard.
the time,
Mhm.
and my heart was broken. I really didn't want to lose my family, and we were living separate lives. We were so disconnected on every level. Were not, we got married young. We had no idea what we were doing. But you have kids and live life, and then you just kind of go through,
And get on with it.
yeah, you just do what you have to do. And then all of a sudden, there was one morning we were sleeping. I was downstairs, she was upstairs, and I just lost it. I just broke down. I just dropped to my knees and I prayed to a God I had no idea who he, she, it was.
But you
And
remembered what Mummy said and what you did.
well, I did, and that was part of the challenge, right? The religious conditioning that
Yeah.
we grow up with. I was evangelical Lutheran Christian because that's what my parents were. So we're born into our religion.
Yeah.
And so that's the only thing I knew. So I went back to being that evangelical Lutheran Christian. And damn it, if I was going to be a Christian, I was going to be a perfect one.
Yeah.
So I got caught up in the dogma and following rules. And I read the Bible and I memorized scripture, but I didn't have that transformation. things started to change a little bit, but I was still suffering. I was still unhappy. I had this low level sadness that I couldn't shake.
No
And
connection.
I was no connection, no experience. I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know that was possible. And as many of us do, we continue to look outside of ourselves for validation, for hey, can you make me feel good about myself? So I did that through sports, through golf, through bodybuilding, through cycling, a lot of it through women. When I started dating again, I was desperate for a woman to tell me I'm a good man. And of course, that's not possible. We have to discover that for ourselves. So when things really started to shift for me, when I really started to connect it with my own spiritual being, I
Mhm.
started working with a spiritual mentor. And she
Okay.
started using words like Christ consciousness,
Yeah.
divine feminine,
Yeah.
divine masculine.
Yes.
She was raised with Buddhist teaching and the Unity Church. She was
Yes.
speaking a foreign language. I'm like, what are you
Mm.
talking
Talking
about?
about.
Like, so she gave me permission to go on my own exploration
Yeah.
of spirituality. So
Yes.
I got really, really curious and I
Yes.
dove in. And I'm a sage at heart. I love to learn. So I
Yeah.
was let loose.
Yeah.
So I started studying Taoism, Hinduism, Buddhism. And what's amazing is it led me back to Jesus. And I started studying the Christian mystics, in particular Joel Goldsmith. And I found out about him through the back door, like, but it wasn't through the back door. It's just like,
Yeah.
and he started speaking to me. I'm like, this makes sense to me. So it's brought me to this point in my life where, studying Christian mysticism, and all the religions, and you realize they're all saying the same thing
Yes.
in their own beautiful, unique way. Learning from Yogananda and Self-Realization Fellowship, and he speaks very poetically. Joel Goldsmith is very New York, to the point. This is it, and just live this with conviction. And so this awakening has led me to do this work for myself, but also to work with men specifically. So my business is called Inner Power Collective, specifically working with men, helping them to heal, awaken spiritually, and live authentically. And so I've created a space for men, both one-on-one and small, very small, intimate groups, to do that healing work, to understand that spiritual aspect, that the divine being that we all are, and then to live a life that's authentic to them, to stop compromising who they are, trying to fit into the mold that we're told that we're supposed to fit into as
Yeah.
men. And I'm here to shift that way of thinking. So there's my
Okay.
stories, and so you can dive in anywhere you want.
Yeah. I want to go back to the time when you were going through your divorce. It was very hard, and
Mm,
you came across this woman who was
mm,
talking about the feminine and the masculine, and it was foreign language, but she gave you permission, and that was the words I liked her. She gave you permission to go off and search. And I think this is what many people um, need to realize. And this is what spiritual infinity is all about. It's the same people. There is so much out there, and we are individuals, and we are going through different things,
mhm,
and with different karma, and without delving too much into it, because there's a lot of things that mold us, that affect us
mhm,
in our life, and we don't realize.
mhm,
And it is about then having to find the right thing that is for us. And the fact that you started off evangelical, you wasn't interested, you've gone and lived your life, your pain has brought you back to reconnect to your spiritual, or right,
mhm,
yes, reconnect and to awaken to your spirituality. Because although your parents and brought you up in that way, you still weren't there. But it took that
Mm.
pain. And then for you to go out and start to search, which is good because, as I said, we're all different. And that to me was so interesting. And I think people need to realize that you might come across something and you might think yes or no. Don't give up. It is about going to see what's out there and listening to it and experimenting. And you did say, Troy, that you read many different things and they were all saying the same thing. What are some of the things you delved into?
Well, one thing, yeah, I mean, I just got really curious. So, I would probably say it started with Joe Dispenza. I connected with his work in
Yeah,
quantum physics,
yeah,
which,
totally.
was a beautiful, I'm very, I love science, and
Yeah,
to hear it from somebody's, modern day mystic. And
yes,
I went to a 7-day retreat that he did here in Denver a couple years ago. And what he says in the retreat is different than what he maybe says a little more in public. But
mm,
wherever I stand is holy ground would be
yeah,
one thing he said uh, repetitively, right? Which is beautiful, right here, right now. Whether I'm on the golf course, whether I'm riding my bike, or I am in a holy temple, it doesn't
yes,
matter.
it
And
is
that's
you.
why it kind of where it makes sense. What I felt spiritual when I was out playing soccer in the backyard with a friend. That was a very spiritual experience, but yet felt shamed for that.
Mm,
And then I started studying Taoism. I actually became a Qigong instructor
mm,
a few years ago, and Taoism is just this beautiful. The Tao Te Ching just kind of blew me away that we have sovereignty over our own being,
yes,
and it's a divine, very much divine feminine of
mm,
allowing. And we're taught, especially as men, to force and make things happen. And we know in this spiritual realm, yes, we put in the effort through meditation, but ultimately it's grace. And be like water, right? Bruce Lee, right? We as men, and I speak kind of from, obviously I'm a man, but I work with men. So we try to go through the rock instead of
mm,
around the rock.
yeah,
Right? So this Taoism and Qigong and it's just like so beautiful. The Tao that can be named is not the Tao. So we only have concepts of God.
yeah,
Like we're told who God is. And that we have to go beyond the intellect, the concepts. Like I'm very intellectual, and like I said, I memorize so much scripture. Like, but if it doesn't sink into our soul, if it
yes,
doesn't change who we are
yeah,
and bring this deep sense of inner peace, we're missing the point.
yeah,
And that's what this when you invited me to be on this podcast, and I read about what your story is and what you're bringing to the world is I think it's giving people permission to get curious.
yes,
And I would say if you're not happy or joyful or feeling inner peace, something needs to shift, right? For me, it was like this low level sadness. Like, why am I sad all the time? I know so much scripture. There's got to be something more. What am I missing? And then when I got that permission to be curious, and Rupert Spira is another one, right? The consciousness only model. And I mean, Eckhart Tolle, I could go on and on. Buddhism and Zen Buddhism, like I said, I dove in, and it was beautiful. And then at some point, you kind of have to be like, all right, narrow in a little bit because you can get off on all these tangents, and it can lead you, to too much knowledge, right? So at some point, it's got to be about the end of knowledge. And it's got to be about realization and experience, right? I still love to read, but I know the truth, right? The truth
yeah,
will set you free.
yeah,
So I know the truth. Now it's just embodying the truth of I am.
yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to.
And I think when you said too much knowledge, it's when you look at different um all these different spiritual avenues,
Mm,
and what you said at the last, just not this time before, and you said they're all saying the same thing.
mm,
but in different ways. And
Different
it's
ways.
not until we can connect, and that's when you start to come to the narrow.
Right.
It's when you realize what they're saying.
Mhm.
And people need to hear this. People need to realize it's not just this one that's saying it. This one is also saying it, and that one is. And then you realize, well, if they're saying it, and this one, and these are ancient,
Yeah.
there must be some truth, and this must be the way. But then it's finding which one actually sits well with you,
Mhm.
so that you can continue that path and continue that learning. Because, and I say this very quickly and very earnestly, it's not about now I found it and that's all it is. No,
Mhm.
what you find is something that sits well, that you can connect with, and then you can continue your learning and
Mhm.
going deeper and your transformation.
Right.
But it doesn't stop you from reading other things that will help you to understand that which you need
Mhm.
to keep going.
Yeah, that's yeah, it's beautifully said. And I think one thing I've learned on this journey, especially working with men, uh, I don't tell them what path to follow. I do the same thing. I said,
Thank you.
find your own path, the one
Yes,
that just resonates with your heart. And
thank
then it's really up to you to take that teaching and embody it yourself. It's your
that
responsibility. The teacher cannot do the work for
for
you,
you.
whatever that is. And that's that realization. It's like all these paths are beautiful
Yes,
and there's not one right or wrong. And I think when we force our views on other people and say, well, you have to believe what I believe, that's when we're actually doing so much harm
yes,
to
yes,
people and it turns people off. So I think the best gift that I was given was permission to explore my own spirituality. Like, oh, I can do that. That's okay. It's safe for me to go outside my religion in air quotes, you know, and it was so exciting. And every day is so exciting because I learn something new when I'm in meditation. I get, my morning starts typically at 4 a.m. And I love that time in the morning, from like 4 to 7 is my kind of sanctuary before I go out into the world and do the work with men and all that stuff. So, that is so amazing to me. And I'm not saying anything against church. It's got to go beyond that hour on Sunday. And I think church can be a beautiful community. And I'm a big believer in community, and that's not an easy
yes,
thing to find. And that's why I created Men of Courageous Souls, which is a community for men.
yes,
Um, and I think men are lacking community, and maybe that's something we can talk about too. But
yes.
yeah, it's an exciting, fun, it's an adventure, the divine adventure, and it's opened up a whole new world for me, and I'm actually so joyful, right, without needing anything outside of myself, um, not
Yeah.
needing to be in a relationship. It's wonderful.
It is about people understanding and believing, because you can understand something to really believe in it, that everything is within you. It always has been.
Yeah.
Everything is always you. There is a saying, I am not a drop in the ocean, I am the whole ocean in a drop. I am not a speck in the universe, I am the whole universe in a speck. We are all part and parcel of everything that is, because the creator created us
Mhm.
and we are an extension of the creator.
Mhm.
And therefore, if the creator created everything, we are all connected and all a part of it. And until we start to realize that and start to work with that, and it's not something that happens overnight,
Right.
it's an ongoing process, because you went through your pain with your family and then having to find your road.
Mhm.
And now that you've found something that makes you feel comfortable, it is an ongoing story. It's an ongoing journey. It doesn't stop because transformation takes time, and we're not perfect. And you were saying you were looking to you to be the perfect Christian. Hello.
Yeah, that didn't work very well. That was created more suffering. Yeah, that was,
Yeah.
and that's what that's kind of like, that's what you try to do, right? I was raised in a perfectionistic home, and I realized, I got praised for being perfect. So I was like, well, okay, if I'm going to be a Christian, let's go all in and try to do it perfectly, which we know that's impossible from a
Mhm.
human standpoint,
Mhm.
anyways. But yeah, it's kind of mind blowing to be here where I'm at on this journey. And sometimes I look back like, well, how did I get here?
Yeah.
But you're right. It's an ongoing journey, and sometimes it feels very slow.
Mhm.
It feels very painstaking. It's very frustrating. Like when you kind of feel like you're not progressing a little bit. But as I look back, even over the last year or two, like how much I've grown on this journey spiritually, and that's why I get up really early in the morning, because it is ongoing, and it's a continual evolution of awakening, and then helping other people realize
Now,
their truth.
coming to your awakening and helping other people. And what
Hmm.
I particularly like, and I'm so glad that we've made this connection, is
Hmm.
because you do work with men. And I
Hmm.
found, and I think in most religions, the women are always there going ahead, and we cry, we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, and we can open up. But men find it so difficult. They find it difficult and don't realize that there is a femininity within them that they are allowed to use, and it helps them through their life. And they need somebody to give them the permission to
Hmm.
connect to that femininity. And you are doing that. So please, Troy, tell us how your situation is helping and how you encourage other men. And as you said, you don't tell them you have to do this. It is about finding that gentleness, that safe place, and that eagerness within so that they want to change.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so I work with men both one-on-one and through small groups. It's called Men of Courageous Souls. So I wanted something that spoke to the heart of men, but the courage is in the vulnerability, right? And we've been conditioned to believe that vulnerability and connecting emotionally and sharing our feelings is weak,
Yes,
and crying is weak, right?
yes,
And
yes.
it's really this balance of masculine and feminine, right? So
Mhm.
we still have our masculine side, but we balance it out with the feminine side. We've gone way too far to, we'll call the yang side, forcing, making things happen,
Yeah,
trying to find our power externally instead of internally. So a lot of my work with men is helping them find that balance, and a lot of it is they've gone way too far on the forcing side instead of the allowing side.
yeah,
And I practice qigong with them, so I create movement too. So a lot of men like to move and connect with their body physically. So
mm,
before a session, I'll practice qigong with them, and then we'll sit down and talk for an hour. And then another thing, when they're local, we'll go out and have an outdoor adventure, and we'll go for a mountain bike ride, or we'll go play golf, so we can have these conversations in a kind of a more natural
yes,
outdoor setting, which
yes,
men are more likely to open up
yes,
when it's not just face to face. Now, I've been working with my men for some time, at least the clients I have, so we're really comfortable through the
yes,
virtual
yes,
platform. But I think it's really important to connect in person when possible,
yes,
and connecting with men in outdoor nature, doing what they love, what I love, hiking 14ers, which is a mountain that's 14,000 feet above elevation. And you realize your truth pretty quickly when there's not a lot of oxygen above 12,000 feet. Men open up.
Oh
So
my gosh. And what I find interesting is when you say when they're doing things that they like, and Jenny, rather than sitting down like a consultation, like a psychiatrist one-to-one, is rather than going out, playing golf, walking, cycling, whatever, and they loosen up and they feel happy and free to loosen up and to speak honestly, because as you know, through all of us who are light workers and what we go through, you have to face yourself and be honest. You really have to be honest, because what's inside has to come out and you have to face that. And then you can say, how do I change? How do I handle this?
Yeah. So cutting out a little bit here, but
And working with them. How do you feel when you're working with them?
Yep, you're cutting out just a little bit.
Yeah. How do you feel when when you're connecting one to one? What are the reactions? Oh, what are the things that they find difficult in ways of opening up? And how do you, even when you're on that traveling or walking, how do you get them to calm and trust? Because it's a thing of trust.
Yeah, it's a thing of trust, and that's something that takes time. And I've been gifted the gift of listening and asking good questions and empathy and compassion. So it comes pretty naturally for me to create a very safe space with men, to let them know that it's between me and them, and this is an opportunity for them to share their deepest, darkest secrets, whatever that is. So really just creating that space of openness. And I just ask questions and I listen and I ask them to go deeper. And it's a layering. We just peel the layers off the onion, and I meet them where they're at, right? I can only meet them if they're ready to go here, which may not be super deep, right? But we just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. And I think that's really, really important in this work. Is we can't expect somebody to be maybe where I'm at, and I can't go there until they're ready, and recognize that. And then just creating that safe space where it's safe to cry. Some men haven't cried for 20, 30 years, and just say, hey, it's okay to cry. And sometimes I cry too, and I share some of my story, my vulnerability, some of my struggles and what I've learned. And I come up from a place where I don't have it all figured out. I come from a place that I'm on this journey too. And I
Exactly.
think that gives them permission to say, hey, Troy's doesn't have this all figured out. This, like you said, this is an ongoing journey. And the day I think I have it all figured out is the day all hell's going to break loose. So I come from a very, I'm here for you. We're here to learn from one another. And I'm going to learn from you and what you're going through and what do I need to look at in my life. And then I'm going to help you find your answers inside. And it's so beautiful to see men be vulnerable. And the cool thing about this, NC, is I'm impacting the man that's in front of me. But a lot of these men, their fathers, their husbands, their sons, their brothers, they own businesses. So it's that compound effect. Like if one man does his healing work, it's going to help everybody he comes into contact with, and people he doesn't even come into contact with, right? With that oneness. We spread that light just through our consciousness. So, it may not be thousands of men right now that I'm working with, I see that as a possibility through this, the small men's group as a possibility where it could be thousands of men. But yeah, it's a beautiful gift that we get to give each other. And I'm humbled that I'm being used to do this work specifically with men. And I think there's a deep need for community and vulnerability. And I do believe men want to express their feminine side.
Yes.
I see it. It's just they're
Yeah.
like crying to get to literally crying to
Yes.
get it out. They just don't know how, so it's suppressed. And then it comes out in very unhealthy ways.
Praise.
And it's, again, it's that permission to express from a feminine side, but it doesn't mean we lose that masculine side of ourselves, because we have that too. We can still provide, protect when we need to, and then but we can also communicate from this place of wholeness and share what we're feeling. And I think that's one of the things that I don't want to speak for women, but women get really frustrated with, that men don't communicate very well. And I would be
Yes.
the first to admit I've been called stoic
No,
many times.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the people
This
I
is what
looked
women.
up to, the men I looked up into, yeah, we're very stoic. So
Yeah, yeah.
anyways, go ahead.
No, it's true. Women say this about men all the time. They don't communicate. But I think we also need to realize, because of the way men have been brought up to, not to cry and to be tough, and you've got to be the man, and so they feel they have to have this hard service and know it all, and it's not so. And I think we as women with our children, we need to look at things differently when we're bringing up our sons. When we're bringing up our sons as well, how we handle that. What I liked is when you said, and I resonate with it so much, people don't realize that we as light workers, when we've gone through and now we're doing this work with other people, you with men, me with women, and men as well, that we do feel so humbled, because it's not about that we know everything. We are also learning from the person we're working with, because there are so many different angles that we might not realize, but now we're hearing, and it helps us to understand. And it makes me so grateful and humbled that somebody is trusting themselves and their vulnerability to me. And I do feel very humbled that every time I do this work, I am so humbled that this person is trusting me with their innermost demons or pain. And I'm also learning, I from what I know, but I'm also learning from them as well. And I hear that with you.
100%.
Now,
We're all here to learn from one another. Yeah.
that's right. And it never stops. It never stops. So Troy, tell me about you talking about men lacking community. I suppose um, we've already touched on that a bit, but how do you work with your men to try and bring them together, or to try and help them to work through those things?
Yeah. So I created a community called Men of Courageous Souls Sacred Circle. And it's a
Mhm.
group of 5 men, one facilitator, and 4 other men. And everybody gets kind of about 5 minutes at the beginning to share what's on their heart. So, challenges, struggles, opportunities, feelings of tenderness, right? To kind of bring out
Mhm.
that feminine side. What are you feeling tender about? Not something men think about very often. So we meet once a month, and it's no more than
Throws.
5 men, because yeah, so it's no more than 5 men. Uh, it's a very intimate setting, and what's beautiful
Yeah.
is that learning from one another. And what happens with men so much is that we feel isolated, and we isolate ourselves. And I was really good about, when I was struggling with something, I call it the door slam. I shut the door, I close the blinds, and I give the world a big F you. Like, I don't want anything to do with it.
Yes.
And that's
Mm.
very typical of men. So I've created this community, a sacred circle, where men know that they're not alone. And what happens is men, once they start sharing, they realize that the other man is going through a very similar situation. Now, it might look a little different under, on the surface, but underneath it's the same thing. So it's usually about unworthiness, lack of purpose, feeling complacent, maybe bored, all these things, disconnected from their soul, all these things. So we talk for an hour and a half, and we do that once a month, and then I'll meet with them individually in between that time, and then I encourage them to meet peer to peer. So one time a month. So there's touches in between that once a month. So they're not just hanging out there by themselves. And then obviously it's an open invitation for them to reach out to me, but it really creates this connection. And then meeting for retreats, outdoor retreats up in the mountains where we can get together. And what I found, which is really cool, is life change happens around conversation, around breakfast, around lunch, around dinner, where we're just kind of like this. We're just having an informal conversation. And
Yes.
I think it's very healing to experience that. I think it's really important for men to get away from the day-to-day routine occasionally for their own healing. And so I try to create environments for either one-on-one or small group retreats. And like I said, my vision is to have men of courageous souls, sacred circles around the world, hundreds and thousands of them, 5 men getting together and transforming their lives. Why
Right.
not?
And I think this is so much, as I said before, we need more of you men coach reaching out to men and not just reaching out to men, but letting men know that there's somebody there that they can talk to. And I think sometimes they find it difficult talking to another woman, but for a man to man, that they feel that you understand me, so to speak. So Troy, you have these groups going on. What how do people connect with you if they want to? Do you do you have websites? How can they get? Because I'm going to there are 1 or 2 men around me that I feel would be, you could work with them. But people who are listening to this, and hopefully men who will reach out, and please do, you men out there, how can men connect with you, reach out to you?
And I mean, I love doing these podcasts, and this is a great way for men to hear about things that they may not be aware of. So I really want to encourage,
Yeah.
if there's just one man that has the courage to reach out, please do email me,
Yeah.
troy@innerpowercollective.com. I do a complimentary hour and a half, 2-hour call that we can just get to know each other and see if this is something that you want to do. There's never any pressure. I'm getting ready to start another sacred circle here. So I'm looking for a few men. I need 3 more to complete the circle. And there's no charge for
To
for
work
that
with.
small group. For the small group,
Mhm.
there's no fee at all. I'm like so sporadic on social media, to be honest with you. I do have a YouTube
Yeah,
channel. I'm taking a little break from
it can
that.
be difficult.
But I do have a YouTube channel and I do have Instagram. So you can check all that stuff out. But the best way is to email me, or you can go on my website, which is innerpowercollective.com. I have a way to reach out to me either through contact, or you can set up a time through Calendly. And I'd love to connect with you one-on-one. I mean, I think that's a part of my work, is one-on-one work with men. That's where my
Okay,
personality excels.
so Troy, can you just repeat for us your websites? It's troyinnerpower.com and there's innerpowercollective.com. Is that correct?
My email is troy@innerpowercollective.com. That's my email. And then my website is innerpowercollective.com. Yeah. And that's all my
Right,
information
fine.
is on
Troy
there.
at
Yeah.
innerpowercollective.com.
Yep. That's my email.
Great, fine. And
Yeah.
I'll put it again when the podcast is done. So, Troy, just before we finish,
Hmm.
please, what little golden nuggets, and I also always ask my guests this, can you leave us with, and especially men? And I'm so happy that, you know, I've got some who's just for men, because men need this so much. What golden nugget can you share to the men?
Yeah. So if I could give one piece of advice to a man, I would give them permission to explore, get really curious about who they are at their core,
Mm,
and do a deep dive and a deep understanding, know thyself. Maybe throw out the rule book a little bit, you know, in a good way. So kind of be the rebel explorer, um, and just get really curious. Just start asking questions and in a non-judgmental way, and
who they
then be
are.
true to your soul. Yeah, be true to your soul.
Yeah,
Be true to who you are, and stop trying to fit into the mold of the expectations of other people. And it might be very uncomfortable. In fact, it will be very uncomfortable. And that's where,
yeah.
you know, you're in the right place when life starts to get pretty uncomfortable and you don't know, what's going to happen next, then you know you're in the right spot.
Bless you. Troy, thank you so much for being with us today. And you're absolutely right. It does get uncomfortable because you are actually where, and it's not just for the men, it's for all of us. When we start down that
Yeah.
spiritual road and start to look at ourselves for that transformation, please don't think that you men are the only ones that are going to be uncomfortable. Women, all of us, we have to go through that uncomfortableness because we're changing. We have to look at ourselves and we have to realize things have to change. And so for you men, you're just joining us, joining the flow. So please don't get disheartened, because we women know about it. So for now, I'd like to say thank you to my guest, Troy Ismail, for joining us. I say today, this morning for you, this afternoon for me, and for everybody else. Thank you. And we'll speak again soon. Bye for now.